name's Julia Schock. Basically, I am the adoptive mother of a little girl who is now 9.5. Her mother was 13 when she was raped by a man of a different race. When her family found out about the pregnancy, they took her to an abortion clinic, and she was given an ultrasound, and they would not let her see it. They told her that her baby was 20 weeks and that her baby was not formed yet. They then told her, when she was asking about options, she asked about adoption, and they said nobody will want a biracial rapist's baby. So they basically made her think that there's not only something wrong with her baby, that she's biracial, but there's something wrong with biracial relationships because they produce biracial children. And when she still hesitated, they told her that if she did not consent to the abortion, that she would die. So she has all three of the hard cases. She was raped, there was something wrong with her baby, and if she didn't abort, she'd die. So she has life of the mother, rape, and there's a problem with your baby. So believing that nobody would want this baby and she would die trying to have a baby nobody would even want, she consented to the abortion. They gave her STD testing because it was a rape situation, but they never gave her the results. So she couldn't make an educated decision because she didn't have the information. They didn't give it to her before the procedure, and they never sent it to her. She was on the table in the stirrups. The price they had quoted her mother was under local anesthesia, so she would have been awake for a 20 to 30 minute long live dismemberment abortion of a 20-week baby. And this is a rape victim. Now what they should do in that case is, in a second trimester abortion, is they should pack the woman's cervix with sticks of seaweed that absorb moisture and slowly dilate the cervix. That cervix is a really tight muscle, especially on a young 13-year-old. They say it's green. It's really tight, and if you stretch that muscle, you can tear it, you can weaken it. So you're supposed to do it very gradually. They didn't do that. They decided that since the price they quoted her mother was for local anesthesia, the mother did not have the additional $300 for general anesthesia, that they would go ahead and do it anyway, and they were going to do it manually with metal rods forcing open that cervix on that little girl. And she was on the table in the stirrups, and they were dilating her, awake. And she was in so much pain that she was crying out, and the abortionist finally stopped and went to her mother and said, and I quote, "She's making my job too difficult. Come back when you have more money." And they rescheduled the abortion for a week and a half later to give her mother time to get more money for that general anesthesia. Now, I had a 2-year-old son and a 2-week-old daughter, and I was home recovering from my second C-section. And a message comes through on my computer. I had befriended a girl who had had a second trimester abortion and had deeply regretted it. And she had shared her testimony for the very first time in front of a Campus Crusade for Christ group on her college campus. And in the audience was a young woman who came forward and said, "My 13-year-old sister was raped. Our mother is forcing her to have an abortion. I need help. This is how our God works." This girl, this friend of mine, gets a hold of me and says, "I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do." And I'm laying in bed with my brand new baby, recovering from surgery, and I'm scheming with God because I'm going to tell him something he doesn't know. And I'm like, "God, I really want to offer to adopt this baby, but my husband's going to think I'm insane." And I'm in there scheming, and my husband walks in and stands at the foot of our bed and says, "Julie, I think we need to offer to adopt that baby." And I was like, so of course, I get up and I, type out this response to her, and I said, if that's what she needs, because what we decided was, if we were going to ask a 13-year-old rape victim who was in 8th grade, who had everybody against her. She had her family against her. She had her school counselors and her teachers and her friends and all that pressure all coming against her. We were going to have to make life a realistic possibility as a choice. And so we just were like, whatever it's going to take. And we had not had adoption on the radar or in the budget, but God, He knew all about it before we did. We sent out that offer. Then we find out they had taken her in for the abortion and that it had been rescheduled. And I was like, oh my Jesus, this girl does not have an advocate. Nobody is listening to her. Nobody is telling her the truth. And so I said to my friend, I was like, can you find out from the older sister if she would be willing to talk to you and I, because you've experienced a second trimester abortion. And I do educational talks on fetal development and abortion. And, we can kind of talk to her and give her some facts. And she did. She wanted to talk to her. And it was a lot of, how do you feel? What did you want? What did they tell you? No, that's not true. And I said, you don't know me. You don't need to trust me. You go to these unbiased medical sites and your library and stuff. You find out the truth for yourself and see if they're telling you the truth or if I am. And when we were talking to her, my friend said, Julie and her husband were the one that offered to adopt the baby. I didn't realize that offer was proving the lie that she had been told that nobody'd want her baby. And she said to me, even though she's biracial, even though she was conceived rape, and I was like, honey, I don't care. It doesn't make any difference to me. So, we got off the phone and we didn't hear anything, and I prayed like an absolute crazy person. I have never prayed like this in my life. I was on my face crying, and I was like, it occurred to me, I was like, I'm praying the way I would pray if this was my baby. And it was. And after a month, we got a call from her that she didn't do it and she wanted us to adopt the baby. I said, well, honey, I need to talk to your mom. And so I called her mom and we talked for an hour. And the story I told you is what I heard from her and the mother. And we agreed to meet because I didn't want her to have any concerns about who she was going to be letting raise her baby. And we had a beautiful lunch. We found out that the name we had picked for this little girl was the same name that she wanted to have for that little girl. So on all the paperwork, it's the same name. And my husband had a beautiful middle name. She loved that middle name, so it's the same name. And she invited me to have the supreme honor of being in the delivery room when my daughter was born. Me and her mother, her older sister was the coach, and me and her mom were down there. It was all girls until the doctor showed up at the end just to catch. But all the nurses were women and everything. So we're down there, and I'm practically holding her mother up. I mean, we were a mess. And that baby comes out, and she's got this beautiful curly hair and these big fat cheeks and these beautiful eyes, and everybody's a big crying mess. And everybody follows the baby except me. I go to her precious mama, and I just put my arms around her, and we were both crying. And I was like, honey, you did it. She's here. And when I had talked to her on the phone that first time, I told her, I said, this is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done in your life. I can't promise you that it's going to be easy. I said, but all I can promise you is that when you see her, when you hold her, you will know that it was worth it. And when I'm holding her right after she delivered that baby, I have my arms around her, and she's crying, and she said, you were right. She was worth it. And we have a beautiful relationship with her family. Her mother is now pro-life, strongly pro-life. She is posting everything I post. She puts on her Facebook page now. She got saved. The young girl got saved 2 weeks after the baby was born. Her mother now has come to Christ. I have a huge blessing of having a front row seat to what God's going to do, because He went to crazy lengths to get this baby born. And I will tell you that the abortionist was not successful in taking her life, but he did succeed in giving her challenges. And she has got multiple disabilities from that abortion attempt. And I will tell you that her mom when she started prenatal care, was given STD testing, and they found out that her attacker had given her an STD that can cause sterility. And you want to talk war on women? They care so much about her reproductive rights and her reproductive freedom that they didn't bother to tell her so that she could get treated, and she might have aborted at 13 the only baby she'd ever be able to get pregnant with. But praise God, she's got 2 more children now. My daughter has challenges she will live with for the rest of her life, and they tell you that it's all about the woman's body, and that was just a fetus that they were going to be aborting and removing. If that was just a fetus, why does my daughter have the damage that now she's got challenges for the rest of her life? That's her body that's getting physical therapy, and her body that's getting speech therapy, and her body that's getting occupational therapy. And she is 9.5, but she's basically 2.5. So ask prayers for her as she continues, because she's got those challenges. But my daughter, I hear these other ladies talking about that God has a special purpose for these babies. I don't think we can quite grasp it, and I think that's why there's such an attack on these babies, because there is something. We have an encourager here. You heard her talk about the encouragement that she brought to her mom and to all these other people. I'm raising a worshiper.
Yes.
My little girl, before she could talk, she could pray. She's on her face crying at the altar of our church, and she'll throw her hands up, and she's the loudest singer. Nobody understands half of what she says, but you can hear her. and I figure, I don't care what she says. She's not praying to me. She's not singing to me. God hears every word. He knows what she's saying. And she has everybody in tears. So these are precious people. And I tell everybody that not only is she adopted, because there's no shame in that, but I tell everybody, and all her siblings know, that she's rape conceived, because there is no shame in that either.
Woo! Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, right.
I get the question. Wouldn't it be uncomfortable to have to tell your child that they were conceived in rape? I'm like, well, I think it would be, sure, it's uncomfortable to have to tell your child that their father is a rapist, but it's a lot more uncomfortable to have to go before a mighty God and tell him that I chose to destroy the life that he gave to me that was made in his image. And I'd rather be uncomfortable with man than have to stand before him and try and justify that.